All right, cattle mutilations. I don't hear much of that stuff anymore. Used to be on the. Used to listen to Art Bell a lot back when he had his little radio program on. And there's always someone talking about cattle mutilations. And when all that was kind of big and on the news, I just got into cattle back then. I talked about a previous video where I had the coyotes come in and killed one of my sheep. And it was real interesting where, well, I didn't want to lose my sheep or anything, but it kind of blew me away when I saw what they did. They came in either early in the morning. I'd seen that animal late at night. She was alive, but early in the morning I'd come in and I had this dead lamb. She was about 6 or 7 months old, and she's basically laying there, kind of splayed open. And you'd think, okay, if an animal like a wolf or a coyote or even a dog came in and attacked a sheep or something, you'd expect to see all this blood. Okay, you know, especially if you just cut this animal open and devour it and everything, you think you see a lot of blood. Now, if a dog, I've had this happen where dogs got in and attacked the sheep. That's a bloody mess. That's a whole different deal. That's how you can tell if you have animals that have been attacked in their livestock. Depending on how the animal was attacked, or how the cuts and the wounds and stuff, you can tell if it's a dog, a domestic dog, or a coyote. Coyote's very efficient. Dogs just slash these animals apart. Usually in the armpits kind of thing, the legs, they just cut them all up. They do it to horses, they do it to sheep, they do it to goats, cattle, same thing. They go after the legs, the hindquarters, but they don't ever eat the animal. They just kill it. Once the animal stops running around, they go on to chase something else. It's a game for them. So just a side note, the cattleman or the livestock owner, his worst nightmare is the dog down the street, or a roaming dog, or a loose dog, or whatever. A typical domestic dog, doesn't matter if it's a poodle or a pit bull, that is a cattleman's worst nightmare. Because if that animal has enough energy, he could run the herd to death, he could chew your calves up, go chew another one up. They're not going to eat them. That's not their concern. It's just a fun game for them. They can run your cattle through the fence. So you just so you know, as far as livestock, if a cow guy ever came over to you, got pissed off at your dog, they scare the hell out of us because they could destroy us economically. They could just destroy your herd in a heartbeat. Stupid little dog. So that'll be another video. Anyhow, I got this coyote came out and killed one of my sheep, and so. You know, you're thinking, you know, I tell some of the story, they're thinking of this bloodbath, this animal and all this guts and stuff hanging all over the place. And it was really mind-blowing how I'm pretty sure it was 3 coyotes. And typically what they do, and what they did in this case, is they attack the animal by the jugular. Okay, now you imagine something's got you by the jugular. And you can see the teeth marks, and it wasn't sloppy, maybe 1 or 2 bites where they had this lamb, pretty good sized lamb, by the jugular. She can't scream, can't holler, can't breathe, blood flow stops. So basically it's very fast, especially when the adrenaline's pumping, that this animal's going to go down on its side or to its knees, hit the ground, and not be able to put up much of a fight. It can't even breathe at this point. Can't scream, can't holler, nothing. So you've got one animal holding it by the jugular. Now, because this was, they had only had one, how do I explain this? They only had one shot at this animal, got what they needed, and left. But they'll come back. I'll explain that. So they come in, they basically, if you looked at the animal, it looked like someone had carved open a flap, if you could think of just a little door in the belly of this animal. And the flap was opened up, and they went in and pulled the organs out. It's actually very interesting too that the intestines, they pulled the intestines out which they planned to eat, except for the intestines that still had fecal matter, grass that wasn't digested or whatever. They set that aside over here and pulled out all the stuff they needed to eat. Now the organs are where all the nutrients are. The heart, the lungs, the liver, kidneys, all this stuff. And so that's the primary concern for them when they go in on an animal like this. So they basically, this animal was slit open, looked like a luggage zipper the way this thing opened up. The organs had been removed, except where, like I said, where the fecal matter was in that. So, and that was the intestines that had the fecal matter in. They just kind of set that. Talking with my hands here, I'm Italian, I can't help it. They set that aside and then went and picked everything else out that they wanted. And basically all the meat, all the muscle meat, the hips and all that stuff was left intact. But when you came and you looked at it, there was no blood. It was very, very, you couldn't take all the blood that you'd seen around the scene, you would fill up half a cup. And this is an animal that weighed, the lamb, she was probably 80, 90 pounds. She was no lightweight. But it looked like somebody had taken a knife, cut her open like a flap, laid it out, took this part out, took all this, ate it, whatever they did. And there was the blood mark at the neck where they had her by the jugular. She wasn't dead when they in the amount of time it takes them to cut open, start doing that. The animal's not dead yet. It's just helpless. So these animals are eaten alive, and I tell that to all the wolf advocates. So, but when you see this situation, I didn't have cameras and stuff back then. I probably wouldn't have done it anyway. Now, if I'd seen this, I'll definitely take a picture of it because it's a mind blower. You're thinking of seeing a bloodbath and carnage and all that, and it wasn't. It was clean. I've seen vets do work that was messier than this, and just a clean cut. They tore it, I'm sure. Everything removed, set aside, and all that. So it was just no blood. I'm thinking, this is what they're seeing when they see cattle mutilation. Now I know they talk about aliens and lasers and all that crap, but from my experience, this was cattle mutilation, but it was done by a coyote. This was no otherworldly aliens or special group or whatever, or the CIA or whatever. But the only time we'd had this experience, I have not had cows, heaven forbid, cattle or anything messed with. But this was surgical like work done on this lamb, and it just kind of blew me away. Now that night, here it is, that lamb is dead. Okay, there's nothing we can do about this animal. We did take it at that point, and the carcass, this animal, and we hauled her further out into the pasture in the back of the property and chained it to a tree. And some says, oh gosh, how would you do that? Well, because those animals are coming back, and sure enough they did. They came back for several days. We left that animal out there as bait to get the coyotes to come back, which worked. And then they just carved it down to the bone. I mean, there was nothing left. Kind of a gory thing to do, but you got to get rid of this problem. You've already lost the animal. Now I have to use this animal to get the predators that were taking advantage of it. So, and that actually worked. But then at that point, they just took this thing down to the bones. I mean, there was nothing to it. But it brought a lot of coyotes back that knew of it, and so we were able to utilize that as an opportunity. So anyhow, I'll bring that up as cattle mutilations. That's my opinion, personal experience, where I don't think it's any kind of a special, extraterrestrial race that wants lamb chops and guts. It's just a coyote.